believe this curse was called.
You're the worst.
A name.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Naruto, the movie, live action would open with an expansive aerial shot of the Hidden Leaf Village at dawn, capturing the quiet hum of life in the streets as merchants prepare for the day, children play along the stone pathways, and guards patrol the perimeter, immediately establishing the world as both vibrant and lived in. This opening would juxtapose the peace of daily life with a foreboding sense of unease, hinting at the looming threats that will test the village and its young ninjas. Naruto would be introduced in a playful yet determined sequence, training rigorously while showing flashes of his trademark creativity, improvisation, and impulsive energy, immediately signaling his unique approach to both combat and life. Close-ups of his expressive features, combined with subtle environmental storytelling, would illustrate his longing for recognition and connection, setting up the emotional stakes for his journey. Sasuke's introduction would be handled with a quiet intensity, contrasting Naruto's exuberance with a cool, calculated presence. He would be shown training alone atop a cliff at sunrise, executing precise movements that reflect both physical prowess and internalized focus. Flashbacks to his clan's history, delivered through muted tones and subtle visual cues rather than overt exposition, would reveal the weight of his trauma and the origins of his obsessive drive for strength. This establishes a tension between the two central characters from the start, highlighting both rivalry and a complex, growing mutual respect that will underpin the narrative. The cinematography would emphasize isolation through framing, showing Sasuke physically and emotionally set apart from the bustling life below, hinting at the internal struggles that drive his decisions. Sakura's early sequences would emphasize intelligence, diligence, and emerging self-confidence. Scenes would depict her training both physically and academically, reflecting her dual focus on personal development and strategic thinking. Moments of hesitation or self-doubt would be shown subtly, through hesitation in movement, reflective gazes, or the tone of her voice, providing emotional depth while reinforcing the theme that personal growth is gradual, requiring both effort and self-reflection. Her interactions with Naruto and Sasuke would highlight contrasts in personality and approach, setting the stage for both conflict and eventual teamwork. These sequences would integrate carefully choreographed stunts to display her growing proficiency in combat and medical ninjutsu, blending physical skill with narrative significance. The early training sequences as Team 7 would be interwoven with light-hearted moments of camaraderie, demonstrating the foundations of trust, friendship, and shared experience. Naruto's playful antics and innovative problem-solving would clash with Sasuke's methodical approach, creating both tension and humor, while Sakura's commentary and interventions would show her emerging voice within the group. Subtle gestures, glances, and small acts of support would build an emotional layer beneath the overtly physical action, ensuring that audience investment in these characters grows alongside their skill development. These sequences would also introduce the mentors, Iruka and Kakashi, whose guidance blends practical instruction, moral lessons, and emotional encouragement, reinforcing the importance of intergenerational support. The first missions assigned to Team 7 would serve as narrative tests of skill, ethics, and teamwork. Early assignments, such as reconnaissance of a nearby border area or retrieval of a stolen artifact, would balance danger with opportunities for character growth. Naruto's creativity and unpredictability would frequently turn the tide in these missions, while Sasuke's precision and analytical skills would mitigate risk, and Sakura's medical support and insight would ensure both the safety and efficiency of the team. The cinematography would enhance tension, using dynamic camera angles, environmental obstacles, and practical effects to immerse viewers in both the peril and strategy of ninja operations. Each mission would end with a reflective moment, emphasizing learning, growth, and interpersonal bonding. Encounters with minor antagonists, rogue ninjas, thieves, or mercenary bands, would provide both combat spectacle and moral exploration. Scenes would explore how Team 7 navigates ethical dilemmas, such as whether to prioritize capturing enemies or protecting civilians. Naruto's empathy would often drive decisions that balance morality and mission objectives, while Sasuke would struggle with harsher pragmatic choices, creating tension and character depth. These sequences would blend realistic combat choreography with restrained visual effects to convey chakra-based abilities, highlighting ingenuity, skill, and teamwork rather than relying on purely fantastical spectacle. The narrative would interweave cultural and societal details of village life, such as festivals, clan rituals, and ceremonies, grounding the story in an authentic, lived-in world. A festival sequence, for instance, could depict the fire festival with lanterns, traditional dances, and communal food preparations, offering both visual richness and opportunities for character interaction. Naruto's exuberance would allow him to connect with villagers, Sasuke would observe quietly and introspectively, and Sakura would demonstrate increasing confidence in social situations. These moments provide contrast to action-heavy sequences, highlighting the balance between duty, personal development, and cultural immersion. As the narrative progresses, more complex missions would test Team 7's strategic, moral, and interpersonal skills. They might confront a faction attempting to destabilize the village politically or manipulate environmental hazards to threaten civilians. Each scenario would require nuanced problem-solving, combining stealth, combat, and negotiation. Naruto's creative thinking, Sasuke's tactical analysis, and Sakura's intelligence and empathy would complement each other, reinforcing the importance of diverse skills within a team. These sequences would continue to use immersive cinematography, dynamic lighting, and carefully timed effects to balance tension, clarity, and visual spectacle. The antagonist's motivations would be developed to enhance narrative depth, avoiding simple villainy. Flashbacks, dialogue, and subtle visual storytelling would provide insight into their personal stakes, ethical reasoning, and past experiences. This approach adds psychological complexity to confrontations, creating moral tension and challenging Team 7 to consider consequences beyond immediate survival or victory. The audience is encouraged to engage with the story's ethical nuances, deepening emotional investment and intellectual engagement. Naruto's ongoing struggle with the nine-tailed fox would be explored through visual symbolism, dream sequences, and reflective moments, conveying the tension between latent power and personal control. These sequences would highlight internal growth alongside external skill development, emphasizing the theme that mastery over self is as important as mastery over physical abilities. Sasuke's evolving relationship with Naruto would provide a counterbalance, showing how rivalry, respect, and shared experience shape identity and personal choices. Sakura's development would mirror these arcs, emphasizing intelligence, compassion, and strength in equal measure, rounding out the central trio's collective growth. Minor character arcs would add texture and thematic depth. Shikamaru's strategic mind, Choji's loyalty and courage, and Ino's perceptiveness would reinforce the collaborative nature of the ninja world. These characters would provide both narrative utility and emotional resonance, showing that heroism is not limited to central figures but distributed across diverse personalities and skill sets. Their interactions with Team 7 would further illustrate themes of mentorship, teamwork, and shared responsibility, adding richness to the world building. The film would explore the consequences of failure as intensely as the thrill of success. Missions gone awry would reveal vulnerabilities, force introspection, and highlight the risks inherent in the ninja profession. Naruto's impulsiveness might lead to setbacks, Sasuke's detached strategy could create friction, and Sakura's cautious approach might require balancing risk with action. These narrative beats underscore growth through adversity, creating tension and emotional payoff when the team eventually overcomes challenges through perseverance, ingenuity, and collaboration. Village politics would be woven subtly into the narrative, showing the delicate balance of power, trust, and responsibility in the Hidden Leaf Village. Council deliberations, clan rivalries, and leadership decisions would affect missions, interpersonal dynamics, and character development. These sequences would demonstrate that the ninja world is interconnected and that personal choices resonate within broader social frameworks. The story would emphasize the interplay between individual growth and societal stability, reinforcing the themes of responsibility and ethical action. Cinematography and visual design would continue to play a crucial role, using framing, lighting, and composition to reinforce narrative and emotional beats. Expansive landscape shots would contrast with close, intimate character moments, creating rhythm and pacing that balance spectacle with emotional depth. Practical sets, costuming, and props would reflect cultural authenticity while supporting visual storytelling, immersing the audience fully in the ninja world. The depiction of combat would emphasize clarity, strategy, and emotional stakes rather than raw spectacle alone. Each sequence would be carefully choreographed to show teamwork, character growth, and the consequences of decision-making. Naruto's improvisation, Sasuke's precision, and Sakura's combination of strength and intelligence would work in concert, creating dynamic and meaningful engagements that reinforce the story's themes. Chakra-based abilities would be represented visually in a restrained, realistic style, maintaining immersion while highlighting the character's unique skills. Mentorship would remain central, with Kakashi and Iruka providing guidance through action, dialogue, and subtle emotional cues. Kakashi's calm, strategic approach would contrast with Iruka's emotional investment in Naruto, creating a layered portrayal of guidance, discipline, and encouragement. These relationships would reinforce themes of intergenerational support, ethical reasoning, and the transmission of knowledge, highlighting that growth is both individual and communal. Psychological depth would continue to drive the narrative, exploring internal conflicts, trauma, and ethical dilemmas. Naruto's journey toward self-acceptance, Sasuke's struggle with vengeance, and Sakura's development of agency would intersect with external challenges, demonstrating that heroism involves both emotional and physical mastery. The narrative would emphasize that decisions have consequences, and that understanding, empathy, and resilience are essential components of growth. The musical score and sound design would enhance immersion, combining traditional Japanese instrumentation with orchestral elements to reflect character motifs, emotional arcs, and thematic resonance. Combat sequences, environmental interactions, and chakra-based techniques would be supported by carefully designed soundscapes, maintaining realism while heightening dramatic tension. Silence and ambient sound would punctuate reflection, emotional beats, and suspense, creating a layered auditory experience that complements the visual storytelling. Climactic sequences would blend narrative resolution with emotional payoff. High-stakes confrontations would test skill, strategy, and moral clarity, requiring Team 7 to integrate their individual growth into cohesive action. Naruto's integration of the nine-tailed fox's power, Sasuke's ethical reckoning, and Sakura's full agency would culminate in a resolution that emphasizes teamwork, personal growth, and moral responsibility. These sequences would combine dynamic cinematography, precise choreography, and emotionally charged performances to create memorable, impactful climaxes. The conclusion would highlight the interconnection of personal and societal growth, showing that the journey of a hero is inseparable from the world they inhabit. Naruto's triumphs would reflect empathy, resilience, and leadership. Sasuke's development would show reconciliation between power and morality, and Sakura's growth would illustrate the integration of intelligence, courage, and compassion. The narrative would leave room for future exploration, with unresolved threads, potential threats, and opportunities for continued growth, setting the stage for sequels and extended storytelling. Finally, minor character arcs and world-building elements would continue to enrich the story, illustrating that every figure, no matter how small, contributes to the depth and realism of the universe. The interplay of personal ambition, communal responsibility, mentorship, and ethical choice would create a fully realized cinematic experience, blending emotional authenticity, psychological depth, cultural richness, and dynamic action into a coherent, immersive, and compelling adaptation of the Naruto universe. Naruto, the movie, live action is a conceptual and hypothetical cinematic adaptation inspired by the globally celebrated Japanese manga and anime series Naruto, originally created by Masashi Kishimoto. The Naruto franchise began in Japan and quickly evolved into one of the most influential anime properties in history, shaping generations of fans with its emotional storytelling, deep character arcs, and philosophical exploration of loneliness, perseverance, destiny, and personal growth. A live-action version of Naruto has long been a dream among fans worldwide, especially as modern visual effects and successful anime adaptations have proven that such projects can be executed with respect and cinematic depth. This imagined live-action film would aim to translate the heart and spirit of Naruto into a grounded, realistic yet visually spectacular experience suitable for global audiences while honoring its Japanese roots. The story opens in the Hidden Leaf Village, a place that appears peaceful on the surface but carries scars from a devastating event that occurred years earlier. A colossal beast known as the Nine-Tailed Fox attacked the village, threatening total destruction. In a desperate act of sacrifice, the village leader sealed the monster inside a newborn child, saving everyone at the cost of condemning the child to a life of fear and rejection. That child was Naruto Uzumaki. The live-action narrative establishes this tragic origin early, setting a somber and emotional tone that explains why Naruto grows up isolated, ignored, and misunderstood by nearly everyone around him. Rather than presenting him as a purely comedic character, the film would portray Naruto as emotionally wounded but fiercely determined, allowing audiences unfamiliar with anime to immediately connect with his struggle. As the story moves forward, Naruto is shown as a teenage academy student who consistently fails basic ninja techniques, earning ridicule from peers and disappointment from instructors. However, the film carefully balances his clumsiness with moments that hint at his enormous hidden potential. His boundless energy, refusal to give up, and desire to be acknowledged form the emotional backbone of the narrative. Through subtle performances and grounded dialogue, the live-action adaptation would emphasize Naruto's humanity rather than exaggerated anime behavior, making his journey more realistic and emotionally resonant. The plot deepens when Naruto graduates and is placed into a three-person ninja squad known as Team 7. Alongside him is Sasuke Uchiha, a calm, brooding prodigy driven by vengeance after the massacre of his clan, and Sakura Haruno, an intelligent but emotionally conflicted young ninja struggling with self-worth. Their instructor, Kakashi Hatake, serves as both mentor and mystery, guiding the team while hiding his own traumatic past. The dynamics within Team 7 would be a major focus of the film, highlighting themes of rivalry, teamwork, jealousy, and trust. The live-action format allows these relationships to feel raw and intimate, with quiet moments, intense training scenes, and emotionally charged confrontations that gradually bind the team together. As the mission structure unfolds, the story transitions from simple assignments to a dangerous escort mission outside the village, exposing the young ninjas to real combat for the first time. This shift marks a turning point in the film's tone, moving from youthful ambition to life-or-death stakes. During this journey, Naruto confronts the brutal reality of the ninja world, learning that strength alone is not enough and that survival often demands emotional resilience and moral clarity. The presence of enemy shinobi introduces darker themes such as child soldiers, political manipulation, and the cost of violence, grounding the fantasy elements in serious, real-world reflections. One of the film's emotional peaks occurs when Naruto begins to understand the power sealed inside him. Instead of presenting the nine-tailed fox as a simple power boost, the live-action adaptation would treat it as a psychological and emotional burden. Naruto's fear of losing control, combined with his desperate need to protect his friends, creates internal conflict that manifests visually and emotionally. These moments would be handled with restraint, using practical effects and subtle visual cues rather than excessive spectacle, ensuring the transformation scenes feel meaningful rather than purely flashy. Parallel to Naruto's growth, Sasuke's storyline adds emotional complexity to the film. His obsession with power and revenge creates tension within the team, raising questions about the true meaning of strength. Through carefully written dialogue and restrained performances, the live-action version would depict Sasuke not as a villain but as a deeply traumatized teenager struggling with grief and rage. This nuanced portrayal strengthens the emotional stakes and foreshadows future conflicts without overwhelming the first film. The climax of the story brings the characters into a confrontation that tests everything they have learned. Teamwork, sacrifice, and belief in one another become more important than individual power. Naruto's defining moment is not simply winning a fight, but proving that his resolve, compassion, and refusal to abandon others make him worthy of acknowledgement. His victory is emotional rather than purely physical, reinforcing the core philosophy that defines the Naruto franchise. In terms of casting, a live-action Naruto movie would require carefully selected actors capable of conveying emotional depth rather than relying on physical resemblance alone. Naruto would need an actor who can balance vulnerability with explosive determination. Sasuke would require subtle intensity, while Sakura's portrayal would emphasize growth and emotional strength rather than superficial traits. Kakashi would be portrayed by a seasoned actor capable of conveying wisdom, humor, and quiet sorrow. The casting philosophy would prioritize performance authenticity over celebrity appeal, ensuring the characters feel real rather than stylized caricatures. Production-wise, the movie would ideally be a Japanese-led project with international collaboration, preserving cultural authenticity while utilizing global cinematic technology. Filming locations would blend real-world natural environments with carefully constructed sets inspired by traditional Japanese architecture. Practical effects would be favored for combat choreography, using wire work and martial arts foundations enhanced by restrained CGI to maintain realism. Chakra-based abilities would be visually represented in a grounded way, avoiding excessive visual overload while still delivering awe-inspiring moments. The musical score would play a crucial role, blending traditional Japanese instruments with modern orchestral elements to support emotional beats without overpowering them. Silence would be used deliberately in key scenes, allowing character expressions and body language to communicate pain, determination, and connection. This approach would help distinguish the film from typical action-heavy adaptations and reinforce its emotional depth. As of now, there is no official release date because the movie does not exist as a confirmed production. Any rumored dates, trailers, or studio announcements circulating online are fan-made or speculative. However, if such a film were officially developed, it would likely debut in theaters before transitioning to a major streaming platform due to its global appeal. Marketing would focus on respect for the source material, emphasizing character-driven storytelling rather than spectacle alone. No official trailer exists, but fan-made concept trailers and posters demonstrate the enormous demand for such a project. These fan creations reflect the global love for Naruto and the belief that the story, when handled with care, could succeed in live-action form. The future possibility of a live-action Naruto movie remains open, especially as studios continue to invest in anime adaptations with higher budgets and stronger creative oversight. Ultimately, Naruto, the movie, live action represents more than just an adaptation. It symbolizes the challenge of translating a deeply emotional animated story into a realistic cinematic language without losing its soul. At its core, Naruto is not about ninjas or supernatural powers, it is about loneliness, identity, perseverance, and the universal desire to be seen and accepted. A successful live-action adaptation would honor these themes above all else, delivering a film that resonates with both longtime fans and new audiences, proving that Naruto's message is timeless, powerful, and capable of transcending medium and culture. Naruto, the movie, live action is an imagined cinematic adaptation inspired by the globally renowned Japanese manga and anime series Naruto, originally created by Masashi Kishimoto. The concept of a live-action Naruto has fascinated fans worldwide for years, particularly because the story is rich with complex characters, emotional depth, and a narrative that explores themes of loneliness, perseverance, friendship, identity, and destiny. In this hypothetical adaptation, the filmmakers would aim to capture the spirit and philosophy of the original series while grounding it in a realistic, visually compelling world that appeals to both longtime fans and new viewers. The narrative begins in the Hidden Leaf Village, a peaceful yet historically scarred ninja settlement that has suffered from devastating attacks in the past. A colossal beast known as the Nine-Tailed Fox once threatened the village with annihilation, and in a desperate act, the village's leader sacrificed his own safety to seal the creature inside a newborn child, Naruto Uzumaki, effectively making him both a hero and a pariah. Growing up as an outcast, Naruto faces isolation and ridicule from the villagers, who fear the beast sealed within him. Despite this, he maintains a relentless determination to be acknowledged and respected, dreaming of becoming Hokage, the strongest and most revered ninja in the village. As Naruto reaches adolescence, he struggles to meet the expectations of the Ninja Academy. He consistently fails basic techniques, earning scorn from peers and disappointment from instructors, yet he displays a fierce resilience and raw potential that hint at his latent power. The live-action adaptation would focus on portraying Naruto's emotional depth, showing that his clumsiness and impulsiveness mask a profound inner strength and longing for connection. His journey begins to shift when he is assigned to Team 7, alongside the calm and prodigious Sasuke Uchiha, who is burdened with the trauma of his clan's massacre and driven by a desire for revenge, and Sakura Haruno, who is intelligent, emotionally conflicted, and struggling with her own sense of self-worth. Their mentor, Kakashi Hatake, is a mysterious and experienced ninja whose calm demeanor and hidden scars provide guidance while also challenging their growth. The dynamics within Team 7 form the emotional core of the story, highlighting themes of trust, rivalry, friendship, and the struggles of adolescence under extreme circumstances. The live-action narrative progresses as Team 7 embarks on increasingly dangerous missions outside the safety of the village. These missions expose the young ninjas to real-world threats and ethical dilemmas, forcing them to confront their limitations, fears, and the consequences of violence. The adaptation would aim to balance action sequences with character-driven drama, emphasizing not just physical battles but also psychological and moral challenges. Naruto's internal struggle with the nine-tailed fox becomes more pronounced during these missions, presenting both a literal and metaphorical challenge as he learns to control and understand the power sealed within him. This duality allows the audience to witness his growth, both as a fighter and as a person, emphasizing that true strength comes from emotional resilience, empathy, and the ability to protect others rather than simply defeating opponents. Sasuke's journey runs parallel to Naruto's, providing tension and depth to the narrative. His obsession with vengeance and power creates conflict within the team, raising questions about morality, loyalty, and the cost of ambition. The live-action adaptation would explore his character with subtlety, avoiding the caricature often found in animated portrayals, and instead emphasizing the emotional weight of his trauma and the complexity of his motivations. Sakura's development is equally significant, as she transforms from a somewhat insecure and emotionally reactive teenager into a determined and capable ninja, learning to assert herself and find strength in her own abilities. Kakashi's role as mentor and guide offers moments of wisdom, humor, and vulnerability, grounding the team's adventures and serving as a bridge between the audience and the fantastical elements of the story. The climactic sequences of the film would center on high-stakes confrontations that test the characters' abilities, bonds, and moral convictions. Naruto's ultimate challenge is not only to confront enemies but also to reconcile with the immense power inside him and the isolation it has caused. Rather than relying on over-the-top visual effects, the adaptation would use grounded cinematography, practical stunts, and carefully choreographed combat to make these moments believable while maintaining a sense of spectacle. Emotional resonance is emphasized through close-up shots, intimate performances, and thoughtful pacing, ensuring that each battle reflects the characters' internal struggles as much as their physical abilities. Casting for the live-action adaptation would prioritize authenticity, emotional depth, and the ability to embody the essence of each character rather than mere physical resemblance. Naruto would require an actor who can convey vulnerability, determination, humor, and fiery energy, while Sasuke's role demands a performer capable of portraying subtle intensity, inner conflict, and charisma. Sakura would be cast with someone who can balance emotional expressiveness with physical agility, portraying both growth and strength. Kakashi's portrayal would necessitate a seasoned actor able to convey layered wisdom, humor, and a quiet sense of melancholy. Supporting characters and antagonists would also be cast to enhance the narrative's realism, making the ninja world feel lived in and complex. Production-wise, the live-action film would likely involve a Japanese-led team collaborating with international cinematographers, stunt coordinators, and visual effects artists to create a visually stunning and culturally respectful adaptation. Filming would take place in authentic natural locations combined with intricately designed sets inspired by traditional Japanese architecture, village layouts, and ninja training grounds. Combat sequences would incorporate martial arts choreography, wire work, and restrained CGI to ensure fluid, believable action while maintaining a grounded aesthetic. The depiction of chakra abilities would be stylized but realistic, using subtle visual effects and cinematography to highlight the character's skills without overwhelming the narrative with spectacle. The musical score would be integral to the emotional tone of the film, blending traditional Japanese instrumentation with contemporary orchestral arrangements to reinforce tension, sorrow, triumph, and camaraderie. Silence and pacing would be strategically employed in key moments, allowing the audience to focus on character expressions, internal conflict, and the gravity of the narrative stakes. Sound design would further enhance the realism of combat and environmental immersion, making the world feel tangible and dangerous while still retaining a sense of wonder. Although there is currently no official release date for Naruto, the movie, live action, the potential for such a film remains high given the ongoing popularity of the franchise and the increasing success of anime adaptations in live-action form. Fan anticipation has led to numerous concept trailers, posters, and storyboards circulating online, reflecting both the global demand and the careful thought fans place on casting, narrative, and visual style. While these fan-made creations are unofficial, they demonstrate the widespread belief that Naruto's story, themes, and characters can successfully transition into a live-action medium when handled with respect and creativity. The live-action adaptation would ultimately aim to preserve the core philosophy of Naruto, that personal growth, resilience, empathy, and the ability to form meaningful connections are more important than raw power or victory in battle. The film would explore themes of loneliness, identity, loss, friendship, and the struggle to find one's place in the world, creating an emotionally rich narrative that resonates beyond the confines of the ninja fantasy genre. By focusing on character-driven storytelling, authentic performances, and a visually compelling yet grounded approach, the live-action version could capture both the imagination and the hearts of viewers, appealing to longtime fans while introducing new audiences to the enduring appeal of Naruto. In conclusion, Naruto, the movie, live action represents a vision of what a faithful, emotionally resonant, and visually spectacular adaptation could be. By blending traditional Japanese cultural elements with modern cinematic techniques, grounded performances, and a commitment to preserving the story's core themes, the film has the potential to transcend its medium. It would not merely retell the anime story but reinterpret it in a way that emphasizes the humanity, emotional depth, and universal themes at the heart of Naruto. While official production has yet to materialize, the concept of a live-action adaptation continues to inspire fans and creators alike, reflecting the enduring impact and global significance of Masashi Kishimoto's work. The world of Naruto, with its rich characters, intricate lore, and profound philosophical undertones, remains a fertile ground for cinematic exploration, promising an unforgettable journey for anyone willing to step into the Hidden Leaf Village and witness the trials, triumphs, and growth of its iconic heroes. As Naruto grows within the Hidden Leaf Village, the audience would witness not only his personal struggles but also the intricate political dynamics and social hierarchies of the ninja world, which are often glossed over in animated adaptations. The village elders, including the Hokage and senior council members, balance the safety of the villagers with their own political agendas, which often complicates the lives of young ninjas like Naruto. These adults, portrayed with a combination of gravitas and human flaw, provide a backdrop of tension, emphasizing that even in a seemingly safe and orderly society, decisions carry moral and emotional consequences. Naruto's interactions with these authority figures are fraught with misunderstanding and conflict, highlighting the systemic pressures he faces and making his eventual rise more meaningful. These political layers would be carefully woven into the narrative, giving the live-action adaptation a richness that goes beyond spectacle, showing that the world of ninjas is one of strategy, consequence, and human imperfection. Alongside political intrigue, the relationships between the members of Team 7 would be explored in unprecedented depth. Naruto's friendship and rivalry with Sasuke would serve as a core narrative engine, with the live-action format allowing for subtle expressions of jealousy, admiration, and unspoken empathy that are harder to convey in animation. Scenes could include quiet, lingering glances after training exercises, moments of silent support in the midst of battle, and intense emotional confrontations that reveal vulnerabilities without exposition. Sakura's interactions with both Naruto and Sasuke would similarly deepen, showing the evolution of her feelings from admiration to a more nuanced understanding of loyalty, courage, and self-worth. By focusing on these interpersonal dynamics, the film would emphasize that the strength of the ninja lies not only in combat skills but in the bonds they forge and the trust they build under extreme circumstances. The live-action adaptation would also explore the darker aspects of the ninja world. Missions outside the village would expose Team 7 to mercenary bands, rogue ninja clans, and morally ambiguous situations where innocent civilians are caught in the crossfire. These scenarios would challenge the young ninjas' ethical compasses, forcing them to make decisions that have tangible consequences, thereby creating suspense and moral complexity. The cinematic depiction of these encounters would rely heavily on practical effects, intricate choreography, and strategic camera work, emphasizing realism while retaining the fantastical elements of ninja combat, such as acrobatics, stealth maneuvers, and controlled bursts of chakra-based power. Each action sequence would be designed to enhance character development rather than merely provide visual spectacle, showing how fear, courage, and teamwork influence the outcome of every encounter. Naruto's internal struggle with the nine-tailed fox would be treated as a central psychological conflict, allowing the audience to witness a dual narrative, one in the physical world of battles and missions, and the other in the internal, mental world where Naruto confronts his fears, anger, and loneliness. Visual storytelling techniques, such as mirror imagery, shadow play, and subtle CGI enhancements, could be employed to represent the fox's influence, making its presence palpable without overwhelming the live-action realism. These sequences would highlight Naruto's resilience, intelligence, and emotional complexity, portraying him as a multidimensional character whose growth is inseparable from his ability to confront and integrate the darker aspects of himself. Sasuke's character arc would also be expanded to explore the nuances of trauma, obsession, and moral ambiguity. The live-action format allows for slow-burning tension and layered performances, showing Sasuke's internal conflict as he balances loyalty to his teammates with his desire for revenge. His interactions with Naruto, which alternate between rivalry, reluctant admiration, and simmering tension, provide some of the film's most emotionally charged moments. Key flashbacks to his clan's massacre would be portrayed with restraint, emphasizing emotional impact over graphic violence, and establishing motivation without resorting to melodrama. Similarly, Sakura's development would focus on her growth as a warrior and a thinker, highlighting her journey from self-doubt to self-empowerment, making her a fully realized protagonist rather than a secondary character defined by romantic interest alone. The mentors and secondary characters would enrich the story with layers of wisdom, humor, and perspective. Kakashi's mentorship would balance philosophical guidance with practical training, illustrating that true leadership combines knowledge, compassion, and the ability to inspire others. Supporting villagers, academy instructors, and fellow ninjas would populate the world with authenticity, each contributing to the narrative's exploration of human relationships, ambition, and societal expectations. Villainous characters, including rogue ninjas and mercenaries, would be portrayed with depth and believable motivation, moving beyond one-dimensional antagonists to create morally complex conflicts that challenge the protagonists both physically and ethically. Cinematographically, the film would utilize natural landscapes, dynamic camera movements, and carefully composed framing to immerse viewers in the Hidden Leaf Village and surrounding lands. Sweeping shots of forests, mountains, and rivers would establish the epic scale of the ninja world, while intimate close-ups would capture the nuanced expressions of characters during moments of tension, sorrow, or triumph. The visual palette would blend earthy tones with vibrant highlights during combat and chakra manifestations, creating a distinct aesthetic that balances realism with stylized fantasy. Night sequences, storms, and weather-driven scenes would serve both narrative and symbolic purposes, emphasizing the emotional weight of certain moments and reflecting the internal state of the characters. The musical score would be pivotal in creating emotional resonance. Traditional Japanese instruments, including shamisen, shakuhachi, and taiko drums, would be integrated with orchestral arrangements to provide thematic cohesion. Specific leitmotifs would accompany key characters, enhancing emotional connection, and the strategic use of silence or minimal instrumentation would allow dramatic beats to resonate fully. The combination of music, sound design, and visual storytelling would ensure that both action sequences and quiet, reflective moments achieve maximum impact, supporting narrative flow and character development. Throughout the film, flashbacks and personal vignettes would provide insight into each character's past, fears, and aspirations. These sequences would be carefully woven into the main narrative, avoiding interruption of pacing while deepening emotional engagement. Naruto's formative years, Sasuke's tragic losses, Sakura's personal struggles, and Kakashi's own hidden traumas would all be explored, creating a rich tapestry of interwoven lives that emphasizes the human cost of the ninja profession. These elements would heighten audience investment in the characters' journeys and make climactic confrontations more meaningful. The narrative structure would be deliberately paced to balance action, drama, and character development. Early exposition would establish the world, characters, and stakes, gradually introducing conflict and tension as the team matures. Mid-film sequences would focus on missions, ethical challenges, and inter-team dynamics, while the climax would combine strategic battles with emotional resolution, emphasizing teamwork, sacrifice, and self-discovery. The film would conclude with a sense of accomplishment and growth, while leaving open narrative threads for potential sequels, thereby creating a cohesive cinematic universe rooted in the rich lore of the original Naruto series. In addition, the live-action adaptation would include nuanced exploration of cultural elements intrinsic to the original work. Traditional Japanese rituals, village festivals, ninja training methods, and philosophical teachings would be depicted authentically, allowing audiences to experience the cultural richness underpinning the story. Costume design would reflect functionality, heritage, and character identity, blending practicality with visually striking elements to highlight each ninja's personality and abilities. Props, weapons, and tools would be meticulously designed to ensure they feel credible within the live-action world, further enhancing immersion. The psychological depth of the film would extend beyond the main characters, showing how societal pressures, historical trauma, and cultural expectations shape behavior. The consequences of past events, such as the nine-tailed fox attack and clan conflicts, would reverberate through the narrative, influencing decisions, alliances, and rivalries. By portraying these systemic and personal influences, the adaptation would offer a story that is as intellectually engaging as it is emotionally satisfying, providing audiences with a complex, layered cinematic experience. Naruto, the movie, live action, in its fully imagined form, would also delve deeply into the complex emotional and psychological landscapes of its supporting characters, illustrating that even minor figures contribute to the world's richness and narrative stakes. Characters such as Iruka Umino, the Ninja Academy instructor who first recognized Naruto's potential, would be given extended scenes highlighting mentorship, compassion, and the delicate balance of encouragement and discipline required to guide students in a dangerous world. Iruka's unwavering belief in Naruto would serve as a recurring emotional anchor, reinforcing the theme that recognition and validation can inspire courage and resilience in those who feel marginalized. Other villagers, such as shopkeepers, healers, and elders, would be given small but meaningful arcs that reflect the societal impact of the ninja world's constant cycles of conflict, demonstrating how large-scale events ripple through ordinary lives and influence the protagonists indirectly. By weaving these layers into the narrative, the live-action adaptation would create a sense of authenticity and lived-in reality, reminding audiences that every character's choice and reaction contributes to the broader tapestry of the village and the larger world. The villains and antagonistic forces in the live-action adaptation would be treated with similar depth, exploring their motivations, ideologies, and personal conflicts rather than presenting them as purely evil. Rogue ninjas, mercenary bands, and political manipulators would operate within morally gray areas, challenging Team 7 not just in combat but in philosophy and decision-making. These antagonists would force Naruto and his companions to confront ethical dilemmas, such as whether to prioritize personal safety, the mission's objective, or the well-being of innocent bystanders. Scenes of negotiation, strategy, and conflict resolution would be interspersed with action sequences, creating a rhythm that emphasizes thoughtfulness and character choice alongside physical skill. This approach would elevate the narrative, demonstrating that the world is neither black nor white, and that heroism is defined not by unerring victory but by integrity, empathy, and courage in the face of complexity. A key aspect of the adaptation would be the visual representation of ninja techniques and chakra-based powers. Rather than relying on exaggerated, cartoonish effects, the film would ground these abilities in realism, using subtle visual cues, carefully choreographed movements, and practical effects enhanced by restrained CGI. For example, Naruto's signature shadow clone technique could be depicted through clever editing, precise stunt work, and coordinated physical doubles, creating the illusion of multiplicity without breaking the audience's suspension of disbelief. Sasuke's lightning-based abilities would be represented with controlled sparking effects, dynamic lighting, and precise choreography to convey danger and power convincingly. Sakura's emerging combat proficiency, particularly her medical ninjutsu and strength-enhancing abilities, would be demonstrated through close-up sequences that emphasize precision, focus, and the physical strain of her craft. Each combat scene would be designed to reveal character growth, decision-making, and teamwork, ensuring that fights serve narrative and emotional purposes rather than functioning solely as visual spectacle. The internal struggles of each character would be represented through both visual symbolism and narrative structure. Naruto's relationship with the nine-tailed fox would be central, explored through sequences that blend reality with psychological visualization. The fox might appear in reflective surfaces, shadows, or dreamlike sequences, creating a persistent sense of tension and duality. These moments would not only highlight the danger posed by the fox's power but also explore Naruto's inner turmoil, feelings of inadequacy, and fear of isolation. Similarly, Sasuke's trauma and desire for vengeance would be depicted through shadowed flashbacks, muted color palettes, and physical reactions to stress and confrontation, creating a layered, emotionally resonant portrayal of his inner world. Sakura's struggle with self-confidence and emerging responsibility would be expressed through subtle performance cues, framing, and pacing, showing her evolution from uncertain novice to competent ninja. This multidimensional approach ensures that the film remains as much a character study as it is an action-adventure, emphasizing personal growth and human connection at every stage. The live-action adaptation would also expand the universe to explore themes of legacy, duty, and the consequences of power. The village's history, including past wars, the sealing of the nine-tailed fox, and the complex relationships among clans such as the Uchiha and Hyuga, would be woven into the narrative to provide context and stakes. These elements would be presented through dialogue, visual storytelling, and brief flashbacks, enriching the world without overwhelming the primary story arc. By integrating historical and political context, the film would demonstrate that Naruto's personal journey is intertwined with larger societal and cultural forces, emphasizing the interplay between individual choice and collective responsibility. The audience would gain an understanding of how the actions of one generation shape the world for the next, highlighting themes of mentorship, tradition, and the weight of expectations. Cinematography and visual design would be critical in establishing the tone, style, and emotional resonance of the film. Natural landscapes, including forests, rivers, mountains, and village structures, would be captured in sweeping, immersive shots that communicate both the beauty and danger of the ninja world. Intimate close-ups, selective focus, and slow-motion sequences would be employed to highlight emotional beats, physical strain, and subtle interpersonal dynamics. Lighting would be carefully calibrated to reflect the mood of each scene, using naturalistic illumination for grounded moments and heightened contrasts for suspense, tension, or action sequences. Costume design would combine functionality with symbolic detail, reflecting each character's role, personality, and personal growth. Props, weaponry, and training equipment would be meticulously designed to be both authentic and visually compelling, enhancing immersion while supporting storytelling. Music and sound design would complement the visual narrative, blending traditional Japanese instruments, orchestral arrangements, and modern cinematic scoring techniques to create an emotionally layered soundscape. Each character might be associated with unique musical motifs, reinforcing their presence, emotional state, or personal journey. Strategic silence, minimalistic sound cues, and diegetic sounds would punctuate moments of tension, reflection, and triumph, emphasizing the narrative's emotional core. Sound effects for combat, environmental hazards, and chakra-based abilities would be carefully designed to feel realistic and impactful, ensuring that the audience experiences both the danger and artistry of ninja life. The narrative pacing of the film would balance exposition, character development, action, and emotional beats to maintain audience engagement throughout. Early sequences would establish the village, its people, and the challenges facing Naruto, gradually transitioning to training, team dynamics, and early missions that build tension and character growth. Mid-film sequences would escalate stakes through confrontations, ethical dilemmas, and increasingly dangerous missions, allowing the characters to demonstrate growth while encountering failure, doubt, and fear. The climactic sequences would combine high-stakes action with emotional resolution, requiring the characters to draw upon their accumulated skills, experiences, and personal relationships to achieve victory. This structure ensures that the story unfolds naturally, emphasizing human growth, ethical choices, and the interconnectedness of the characters' journeys. The final act of the film would culminate in a confrontation that tests all dimensions of Naruto's growth: physical skill, emotional resilience, ethical clarity, and interpersonal trust. The climax would emphasize teamwork, strategy, and the protagonist's ability to reconcile personal desires with collective responsibility. Naruto's relationship with the nine-tailed fox would reach a turning point, allowing him to assert control, demonstrate compassion, and use the fox's power responsibly, symbolizing the integration of personal struggle and growth. Sasuke and Sakura's arcs would also reach moments of resolution or foreshadowing, providing emotional closure while leaving narrative possibilities open for sequels. By blending spectacle with intimate storytelling, the climax would reinforce the themes of perseverance, identity, and the importance of bonds that define the Naruto universe. Mentorship, legacy, and emotional continuity would remain central throughout the film. Characters like Kakashi, Iruka, and other senior ninja would serve as guides, catalysts, and emotional mirrors, demonstrating that wisdom, experience, and compassion are as important as combat skill. Their interactions with younger characters would emphasize teaching through example, moral guidance, and strategic thinking, rather than simple instruction. This focus on mentorship reinforces the film's broader philosophical themes, highlighting the continuity of knowledge, responsibility, and cultural values across generations of ninja. Naruto, the movie, live action would also dedicate significant attention to the nuanced depiction of ninja training, showing not only the development of physical skills but also the cultivation of strategy, focus, and mental resilience. The academy sequences would be carefully constructed to reveal each character's growth trajectory, with Naruto's perseverance contrasted against Sasuke's prodigious talent and Sakura's disciplined intelligence. Training would be shown as both physically demanding and psychologically transformative, featuring exercises such as stealth navigation, shuriken accuracy, chakra control drills, and teamwork simulations. These sequences would allow the audience to witness incremental growth, the frustration of repeated failure, and the satisfaction of mastering new techniques, making each victory emotionally meaningful. Additionally, the sequences would highlight how Naruto's unique creativity and unpredictability often compensate for his lack of conventional skill, emphasizing that ingenuity and heart are as vital as raw ability in the ninja world. As Team 7 embarks on increasingly perilous missions beyond the village, the live-action adaptation would explore the diversity of environments, cultures, and moral challenges in the ninja world. Missions into enemy territories, hidden forests, mountainous regions, and abandoned villages would provide opportunities to showcase environmental hazards, ambushes, and strategic problem-solving. The cinematography in these sequences would employ dynamic camera angles, tracking shots, and environmental storytelling to immerse the audience in each setting, emphasizing both the beauty and danger inherent to these adventures. Through these missions, the young ninjas would confront both external threats and internal conflicts, forcing them to make choices that test their ethics, loyalty, and ingenuity. Each mission would thus serve as a narrative device to develop character depth while simultaneously advancing the plot toward increasingly consequential confrontations. The antagonists in this imagined live-action adaptation would be portrayed with layers of complexity, avoiding reductive villainy in favor of believable motivations and personal stakes. Rogue ninja factions, mercenary bands, and powerful adversaries would each have backstories, ethical frameworks, and emotional triggers that influence their actions. These nuanced antagonists would challenge the protagonists not only through combat but through psychological and moral dilemmas, questioning their decisions, strategy, and moral convictions. By presenting adversaries as multidimensional, the film would encourage viewers to consider the consequences of violence, revenge, and ambition, while also deepening the audience's investment in the protagonist's victories and failures. Naruto's ongoing struggle with the nine-tailed fox would be depicted as both a physical and psychological narrative thread, symbolizing the internal and external challenges he faces simultaneously. Sequences showing the fox's influence would blend reality with artistic visual representation, such as shadow play, mirrored reflections, and dreamlike visions that reflect Naruto's internal conflict. These scenes would capture the tension between fear and empowerment, illustrating how Naruto's self-perception and control over his power evolve over time. Rather than relying solely on explosive displays, the adaptation would emphasize restraint, tension, and subtlety, allowing the audience to feel the stakes of his inner struggle as vividly as the external battles he faces. Sasuke's journey in the live-action film would explore themes of loss, identity, and the consequences of obsession. His flashbacks to the massacre of his clan would be handled with care, focusing on emotional impact rather than graphic violence, highlighting the trauma that drives his relentless pursuit of strength and vengeance. His interactions with Naruto would oscillate between rivalry, admiration, and complicated friendship, forming an emotional core that balances tension and empathy. These exchanges would often occur in quiet, intimate moments, such as shared patrols, training sessions, or reflective conversations under moonlit skies, emphasizing the nuanced development of their relationship over time. Sakura's character arc would similarly be expanded, showing her evolution from an insecure, reactive young ninja to a capable, intelligent, and confident warrior. Her mastery of medical ninjutsu, combined with her physical strength and analytical mind, would be demonstrated through sequences that emphasize her agency and problem-solving abilities. Moments of vulnerability, frustration, and self-doubt would be depicted in a grounded, relatable manner, allowing audiences to witness her emotional and practical growth alongside Naruto and Sasuke. By portraying Sakura as a fully realized protagonist, the film would challenge traditional tropes and highlight the importance of emotional and intellectual contributions to teamwork and mission success. The live-action adaptation would also explore the broader cultural and societal elements of the Hidden Leaf Village, including festivals, rituals, clan traditions, and community life. These sequences would serve as both exposition and world-building, showing the everyday lives of civilians, the responsibilities of village leaders, and the interplay between tradition and innovation within the ninja society. Costume and set design would reflect authenticity, blending practicality with visually striking elements that communicate character identity, social status, and cultural heritage. Attention to these details would create a world that feels lived in, immersive, and internally consistent, enhancing narrative credibility and audience engagement. Combat sequences would be choreographed with a focus on strategy, teamwork, and character expression. Each fight would be designed to showcase the unique skills and growth of individual characters while highlighting the dynamics of teamwork under pressure. The camera work would emphasize both the immediacy of physical action and the spatial awareness required in ninja combat, employing tracking shots, slow-motion moments, and perspective shifts to enhance tension and clarity. Practical stunts, wire work, and controlled visual effects would maintain realism while delivering awe-inspiring sequences, allowing audiences to feel the impact and stakes of each confrontation fully. The musical score would underscore emotional resonance, using motifs to represent characters, themes, and emotional arcs. Traditional Japanese instruments combined with orchestral arrangements would create a sonic landscape that reinforces the narrative's tone, from tension and suspense to joy and triumph. Music would be used strategically to enhance key moments, whether during quiet reflective scenes, emotionally charged confrontations, or high-intensity action sequences, ensuring that the audience remains fully immersed in the story's emotional and narrative beats. Psychological and thematic depth would permeate the adaptation, with recurring motifs emphasizing perseverance, identity, loyalty, and the consequences of power. The interplay between personal ambition and moral responsibility would be highlighted through character choices, narrative consequences, and interpersonal dynamics. Naruto's journey would illustrate the transformative power of empathy, resilience, and self-awareness, showing that true strength is defined not by dominance but by the courage to face oneself and protect others. These thematic elements would provide a rich, layered experience that resonates beyond the confines of fantasy action, offering universal insights applicable to viewers' own lives. The pacing of the film would balance exposition, character development, action, and reflection. Early sequences would establish the world, characters, and stakes, progressing naturally into more challenging missions and escalating conflict. Mid-film sequences would delve into personal struggles, ethical dilemmas, and interpersonal tension, while climactic sequences would combine emotional resolution with visually compelling action, ensuring that both narrative and spectacle are harmoniously integrated. This careful pacing would allow audiences to connect with the characters deeply while maintaining engagement through suspense and narrative progression. The narrative would conclude with an emotionally satisfying resolution that highlights growth, teamwork, and the triumph of resilience and empathy over adversity. Naruto would demonstrate mastery over his inner conflict and the nine-tailed fox's power, symbolizing his personal and emotional maturation. Sasuke and Sakura would achieve milestones in their arcs, setting up potential narrative threads for future sequels. The film's ending would balance closure with open-ended possibilities, reflecting the ongoing nature of growth, challenges, and the world's complexity, while leaving audiences eager for subsequent installments. Mentorship, guidance, and legacy would remain central themes, with senior characters such as Kakashi and Iruka serving as moral and emotional anchors. Their interactions with Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura would highlight the transmission of knowledge, wisdom, and ethical principles across generations. These relationships would demonstrate that true strength encompasses guidance, emotional support, and moral courage, reinforcing the philosophical core of the Naruto narrative. The integration of mentorship, personal struggle, and societal context would create a fully realized, multidimensional story suitable for cinematic adaptation. Naruto, the movie, live action, in its fully imagined form, would extend far beyond the simple hero's journey to encompass the intricate dynamics of the Hidden Leaf Village, the complex interplay of personal growth and societal expectations, and the multi-layered relationships between characters of all ages and backgrounds. The narrative would open by immersing viewers in the daily life of the village, from bustling marketplaces to serene shrines, capturing the vibrancy, culture, and subtle tensions that shape the lives of both ordinary citizens and trained ninjas. Villagers would be portrayed with depth and nuance, showing how the lingering memory of past attacks and clan rivalries informs their behavior and perception of the young ninjas in training. Elderly villagers might reflect on the sacrifices of previous generations, while parents and shopkeepers balance the need for protection with the desire to nurture, creating a realistic and emotionally engaging backdrop for the protagonist's story. The early focus on community life would highlight that Naruto's journey is not isolated but part of a larger societal fabric, emphasizing the stakes of his personal growth in a world where every action has consequences. Training sequences at the Ninja Academy would be meticulously detailed, showing Naruto's repeated failures, his frustration, and the small victories that foreshadow his eventual mastery. These moments would be interspersed with quiet, intimate interactions, such as Iruka offering encouragement or subtle lessons on resilience, creating a strong emotional foundation that allows the audience to connect with Naruto on a personal level. The film would carefully contrast Naruto's boundless enthusiasm and improvisational approach with Sasuke's methodical precision and Sakura's disciplined intelligence, highlighting how differing personalities, strengths, and weaknesses can complement each other in both training and combat. Each character would undergo visible growth, with their development punctuated by the successful execution of increasingly complex missions, skill mastery, and personal breakthroughs. As the narrative unfolds, Team 7's missions outside the village would serve as a crucible for both combat skills and ethical decision-making. These missions would introduce a variety of environments, from dense forests where stealth and observation are critical, to desolate mountainous terrain where endurance and strategy determine survival, to enemy-controlled villages where moral and ethical dilemmas arise. Each setting would be utilized to challenge the characters differently, emphasizing their adaptability, resourcefulness, and emotional resilience. Encounters with rogue ninja groups, mercenaries, and morally complex adversaries would force Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura to navigate ambiguous situations where the right course of action is not immediately clear, creating tension and deepening character complexity. These conflicts would blend practical stunt work, choreographed martial arts, and restrained visual effects to depict realistic combat while maintaining the fantastical essence of chakra manipulation, such as controlled bursts of energy, shadow clones, and precision elemental techniques. The choreography would emphasize teamwork, showing how each character's unique abilities contribute to overcoming challenges, thereby reinforcing the film's central themes of collaboration, trust, and personal growth. The narrative would avoid glorifying violence, instead focusing on strategy, skill, and the moral consequences of each action, ensuring that combat serves story and character development as much as visual spectacle. Psychological and emotional arcs would be central to the live-action adaptation. Naruto's struggle with the nine-tailed fox would be portrayed as a persistent internal conflict, affecting his confidence, decision-making, and relationships. The fox would manifest symbolically through reflections, shadowed figures, and dreamlike sequences that underscore the tension between fear, power, and responsibility. These moments would explore Naruto's journey towards self-acceptance and mastery over his latent abilities, portraying personal growth as a layered, ongoing process rather than a single moment of triumph. Similarly, Sasuke's pursuit of vengeance and mastery of his clan's legacy would be depicted with subtle visual cues and flashbacks that reveal the trauma underpinning his motivations. His internal conflict, combined with his growing reliance on and tension with Naruto, would create a psychologically rich narrative, illustrating how friendship, rivalry, and shared experience shape identity. Sakura's development would focus on her growing competence, self-assurance, and ability to contribute meaningfully to both combat and problem-solving, ensuring that her character arc is fully realized and intertwined with the team's collective journey. By presenting each character's internal struggles in parallel with their external challenges, the film would create a cohesive emotional and narrative tapestry, giving audiences insight into the interplay of personal ambition, moral responsibility, and the bonds formed through shared hardship. Mentorship and legacy would permeate the story, with figures such as Kakashi and Iruka providing guidance that balances discipline, wisdom, and emotional support. Kakashi, with his mysterious past and nuanced personality, would serve as both mentor and moral touchstone, guiding Team 7 through increasingly dangerous situations while subtly challenging them to think critically and make ethical choices. Iruka's consistent support and recognition of Naruto's potential would offer emotional grounding, illustrating the transformative impact of mentorship and the importance of belief in shaping character development. These interactions would be depicted through dialogue, action, and shared experiences, reinforcing the thematic emphasis on guidance, growth, and the intergenerational transmission of knowledge and values. The live-action adaptation would also explore broader societal, cultural, and political dynamics, including the history and influence of ninja clans, the ramifications of past conflicts, and the ethical considerations inherent in wielding great power. Clan rivalries, hidden agendas among village leaders, and the lingering effects of prior attacks would create a rich narrative backdrop that informs character motivations and plot progression. Through careful exposition, visual storytelling, and character interaction, the film would convey these complexities without overwhelming the audience, ensuring that the larger world feels alive and consequential. This focus on context and societal interplay would enhance the narrative's realism, showing that personal growth occurs within an interconnected web of history, culture, and political responsibility. The depiction of ninja techniques and chakra abilities would combine visual artistry with grounded physical performance. Naruto's shadow clones would be achieved through a combination of stunt coordination, editing, and restrained visual effects to convey the illusion of multiplicity without breaking realism. Sasuke's elemental techniques, such as lightning-based attacks, would be represented with controlled visual effects and precise choreography, emphasizing danger and skill rather than spectacle alone. Sakura's medical ninjutsu and superhuman strength would be demonstrated through close-up sequences highlighting control, precision, and the physical demands of her abilities. Combat sequences would be designed to reveal character growth, emphasize teamwork, and maintain narrative clarity, ensuring that each fight advances both plot and emotional resonance. Cinematic techniques, including dynamic camera angles, selective focus, slow motion, and perspective shifts, would immerse viewers in the physical and psychological stakes of each confrontation. The musical score and sound design would reinforce emotional engagement and thematic depth, blending traditional Japanese instrumentation, orchestral arrangements, and contemporary cinematic scoring to support key moments. Leitmotifs for main characters would underscore emotional arcs, while strategic silence and minimalistic sound design would amplify tension, reflection, and dramatic resolution. Sound effects for combat, environmental hazards, and chakra manifestations would be crafted to enhance realism and immersion, ensuring that auditory cues complement narrative and visual storytelling. Music would ebb and flow in tandem with narrative pacing, highlighting moments of triumph, despair, reflection, and exhilaration, contributing to a fully immersive cinematic experience. Narrative pacing would balance character development, exposition, action, and emotional beats, allowing audiences to engage deeply with the story while maintaining suspense and momentum. Early sequences would establish the world, characters, and stakes, progressing into training montages, minor missions, and interpersonal conflicts that build both skill and emotional resonance. Mid-film sequences would escalate stakes through complex missions, moral dilemmas, and adversarial encounters, providing opportunities for character growth and thematic exploration. Climactic sequences would combine high-stakes battles, strategic problem-solving, and emotional resolution, ensuring that spectacle and story are integrated seamlessly. The conclusion would highlight personal growth, teamwork, and the responsible use of power while leaving narrative threads open for potential sequels or expanded cinematic exploration. Thematically, the live-action adaptation would emphasize perseverance, identity, moral responsibility, and the transformative power of empathy and human connection. Naruto's journey would illustrate that true strength lies in emotional resilience, courage, and the ability to protect and inspire others, rather than merely in combat prowess. The interplay between personal ambition and societal duty would be explored through character choices, consequences, and relationships, providing a layered narrative that resonates beyond the fantasy setting. By focusing on emotional authenticity, ethical complexity, and cultural richness, the film would create a story that engages audiences intellectually, emotionally, and visually, elevating the adaptation beyond conventional action fantasy. Naruto, the movie, live action, in its fully conceptualized form, would further expand the narrative by deeply exploring the personal histories and emotional complexities of both main and secondary characters, creating a layered, immersive world that engages audiences on multiple levels. Characters such as Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akimichi, and Ino Yamanaka could be introduced through brief but meaningful interactions with Team 7, providing a sense of community within the ninja world and establishing bonds that enrich the protagonist's journey. These supporting characters would be given moments that highlight their unique skills, personalities, and personal challenges, reinforcing the film's emphasis on teamwork, strategy, and the value of individual contribution to collective success. Shikamaru's intelligence and strategic mind would be demonstrated through collaborative mission planning, Choji's physical strength and loyalty through protective acts during combat, and Ino's perceptive insight and communication skills through reconnaissance or medical support. By weaving these interactions into the narrative, the film would illustrate that growth and heroism are not solitary endeavors but are shaped by relationships, mentorship, and the broader social network within which the young ninjas operate. The live-action adaptation would also elaborate on the training regimen and developmental arcs of the protagonists, depicting their progression from inexperienced academy students to competent, morally aware ninja. Training sequences would be designed to reflect real physical exertion and tactical learning, incorporating martial arts, acrobatics, and controlled chakra-based demonstrations to enhance believability. Each training montage would be interspersed with personal moments, such as Naruto struggling to master his shadow clones, Sasuke grappling with the legacy of his clan, and Sakura confronting her own self-doubt. These sequences would be both emotionally resonant and visually compelling, emphasizing that growth requires persistence, creativity, and emotional intelligence. Mentorship from characters like Iruka and Kakashi would be integral, offering guidance, feedback, and moral perspective, reinforcing the importance of intergenerational wisdom and the balance between discipline and encouragement. The depiction of missions and battles in the live-action adaptation would be multifaceted, combining strategic problem-solving, environmental interaction, and intense physical combat. Team 7's assignments would escalate in complexity, requiring them to navigate hostile terrains, neutralize threats with minimal collateral damage, and adapt to unforeseen challenges. Encounters with rogue ninja groups, mercenaries, and morally ambiguous adversaries would test not only their combat skills but their judgment, ethics, and teamwork. These sequences would blend practical effects, choreographed martial arts, wire work, and restrained CGI to maintain realism while showcasing the fantastical elements of chakra manipulation. For example, Naruto's shadow clones would be executed using a combination of stunt doubles, editing techniques, and carefully timed visual effects, ensuring that the power feels tangible without breaking immersion. Sasuke's elemental abilities, such as his lightning-style attacks, would be portrayed with precise visual control and intensity, demonstrating skill and danger, while Sakura's combination of medical ninjutsu and superhuman strength would be highlighted in ways that underscore both intellect and physical prowess. The choreography would be designed to reveal character growth, emphasize interpersonal dynamics, and advance the narrative, ensuring that action sequences are deeply connected to character arcs and emotional stakes. Cultural and societal elements would be integral to the film, emphasizing the heritage, rituals, and social structures of the Hidden Leaf Village and surrounding territories. Festivals, ceremonies, and clan-specific traditions would provide opportunities for world-building, character interaction, and thematic exploration. Scenes depicting village celebrations would contrast with sequences of conflict, illustrating the duality of life in a society shaped by both beauty and danger. Costume design would blend practicality with symbolic visual elements, reflecting personal identity, social status, and functional combat readiness. Props, weaponry, and training tools would be designed with historical and cultural authenticity in mind, further immersing audiences in the ninja world and reinforcing narrative credibility. Psychological depth would be a hallmark of the adaptation, exploring internal conflicts, moral dilemmas, and the interplay between personal desire and societal responsibility. Naruto's ongoing struggle with the nine-tailed fox would symbolize broader themes of self-acceptance, emotional regulation, and the integration of personal power with ethical responsibility. Scenes depicting the fox's influence would be crafted with visual subtlety, using mirrors, shadows, and symbolic imagery to convey internal tension and transformation. Sasuke's pursuit of vengeance would be portrayed as a morally and emotionally complex journey, with flashbacks, private reflections, and subtle visual cues illustrating the weight of his trauma. Sakura's journey would emphasize her evolution from self-doubt to competence and confidence, demonstrating that emotional intelligence and practical skill are equally vital in shaping a hero. These psychological layers would enrich the narrative, providing a deeper understanding of character motivation and creating resonance for audiences. Mentorship and legacy would remain central themes throughout the film. Kakashi and Iruka's guidance would demonstrate the transfer of wisdom, moral reasoning, and practical knowledge across generations, showing how the younger ninja are shaped by both instruction and example. Kakashi's strategic insight and calm demeanor would contrast with Iruka's emotional support and personal investment in Naruto, highlighting diverse approaches to teaching, leadership, and the development of resilience. These mentor-student relationships would reinforce the film's philosophical underpinnings, emphasizing the interplay between personal growth, ethical decision-making, and community responsibility. Village politics and clan dynamics would be explored to deepen the narrative, illustrating how historical rivalries, past conflicts, and intergenerational obligations influence current events. The film would depict council meetings, strategic discussions, and deliberations that demonstrate the complexity of leadership in a society balancing peace, tradition, and security. These political elements would interact with the protagonist's journey, showing how individual choices resonate within larger societal frameworks and reinforcing the thematic tension between personal ambition and collective responsibility. Narrative pacing would carefully balance exposition, character development, mission sequences, emotional beats, and climactic confrontations. Early scenes would establish character backstories, village context, and personal stakes, while mid-film sequences would escalate challenges, ethical dilemmas, and inter-team dynamics. Climactic battles would integrate high-stakes action with emotional resolution, testing the character's skills, teamwork, and moral clarity. The resolution would demonstrate growth, integration of past lessons, and the emergence of mature perspectives on responsibility, power, and human connection, while leaving narrative threads open for sequels and expanded storytelling. The musical score and sound design would enhance the emotional and narrative depth of the film. Traditional Japanese instruments would blend with orchestral arrangements to support thematic development, while character-specific leitmotifs would underscore personal arcs and relationships. Strategic silence, minimalistic soundscapes, and diegetic auditory elements would amplify tension, reflection, and dramatic impact, creating an immersive auditory environment that complements visual storytelling. Combat sounds, environmental effects, and chakra-based manifestations would be finely tuned to maintain realism and reinforce the narrative stakes of each scene. Thematically, the film would explore perseverance, identity, loyalty, moral responsibility, and the transformative power of empathy and human connection. Naruto's journey would exemplify how courage, resilience, and compassion define true strength, emphasizing the importance of understanding, protecting, and inspiring others. The interplay between personal ambition and societal obligation would be explored through character decisions, interpersonal dynamics, and the consequences of action, providing a layered narrative that resonates on multiple levels. By combining emotional authenticity, ethical complexity, cultural richness, and cinematic spectacle, the adaptation would offer a fully realized, immersive experience that honors the source material while standing as a compelling story in its own right. Naruto, the movie, live action, in its fully envisioned form, would continue to expand by incorporating deeply detailed missions, emotionally charged subplots, and an intricate portrayal of village life that collectively enriched the narrative and immerse audiences in the ninja world. Team 7's assignments would escalate in difficulty and significance, beginning with minor reconnaissance missions, stealth patrols, and protection duties, then progressing to encounters with rogue ninjas, mercenary groups, and antagonists seeking to destabilize the Hidden Leaf Village or exploit its political vulnerabilities. Each mission would be crafted to test different aspects of the team's abilities: Naruto's creativity and resilience, Sasuke's tactical intelligence and precision, and Sakura's analytical skills and medical expertise. These missions would interweave external conflict with internal development, showing how personal fears, past trauma, and unresolved rivalries shape decision-making and teamwork. Action sequences would balance spectacle with realism, combining wirework, martial arts choreography, and restrained CGI to depict chakra-based abilities, such as Naruto's shadow clones, Sasuke's lightning techniques, and Sakura's superhuman strength, in a way that maintains believability while emphasizing strategic thinking and character growth. The emotional core of the film would be enriched by subplots that explore the personal lives, histories, and motivations of both main and secondary characters. Naruto's internal struggle with the nine-tailed fox would be portrayed through dreamlike sequences, reflections, and subtle visual symbolism, highlighting the tension between fear, anger, and the potential for growth. Sasuke's quest for revenge would be shown as a morally complex journey, with flashbacks to his clan's massacre revealing the weight of his trauma and his inner conflict regarding loyalty, power, and personal identity. Sakura's growth would be depicted as a gradual journey toward competence and confidence, blending emotional vulnerability with professional skill, illustrating the balance of intellect, emotional awareness, and physical capability in forming a complete ninja. These arcs would be complemented by supporting character narratives, such as Shikamaru's strategic foresight, Choji's loyalty and strength, Ino's perceptiveness, and other minor figures whose actions demonstrate the interdependence and community within the village. Each subplot would serve to reinforce the film's thematic core, emphasizing collaboration, resilience, and the importance of human connection. Cultural and societal context would be woven throughout the narrative, providing depth and authenticity to the world building. Village life, festivals, rituals, and clan traditions would offer insight into the social structure and collective values of the Hidden Leaf Village. Moments depicting ceremonies, clan-specific customs, and community gatherings would provide contrast to high-intensity mission sequences, creating a rhythm that balances action with emotional and cultural resonance. Costume and set design would reflect practicality, cultural heritage, and individual identity, ensuring that each visual element reinforces character, setting, and narrative purpose. Props, weaponry, and training tools would be meticulously crafted to enhance realism and immersion, demonstrating attention to detail that reinforces the film's credibility while enriching its aesthetic appeal. The depiction of combat and tactical engagements would be sophisticated and nuanced, emphasizing strategy, teamwork, and character expression. Battles would combine physical prowess, acrobatics, and precise coordination, with chakra-based abilities presented in a visually grounded manner. Naruto's innovative problem-solving and unpredictability would be highlighted in scenarios requiring creative use of shadow clones and other abilities, while Sasuke's methodical execution of elemental techniques would emphasize precision and control. Sakura's integration of medical ninjutsu and physical strength would allow her to play a critical role in both offense and defense, reinforcing the idea that intelligence, skill, and empathy are as important as raw power in combat. The choreography and cinematic presentation would emphasize clarity, stakes, and the emotional resonance of each encounter, ensuring that action sequences serve both story and character development. Psychological and thematic depth would permeate the live-action adaptation, with recurring motifs exploring perseverance, identity, morality, and the consequences of power. Naruto's journey would exemplify the importance of self-acceptance, emotional regulation, and the integration of personal abilities with ethical responsibility. Sasuke's internal conflict and pursuit of vengeance would illustrate the complexity of trauma and the moral ambiguity inherent in power struggles, while Sakura's growth would highlight the evolution from self-doubt to competence and agency. These psychological layers would be supported by cinematography, visual symbolism, and narrative structure, creating a film that is as intellectually and emotionally engaging as it is visually captivating. Mentorship, guidance, and intergenerational legacy would remain central to the story. Kakashi and Iruka's roles as mentors would be portrayed with nuance, showing the transfer of both tactical knowledge and moral wisdom. Kakashi's experience, calm demeanor, and subtle humor would serve as a stabilizing influence and a source of strategic insight, while Iruka's personal investment in Naruto's development would provide emotional grounding and narrative continuity. These relationships would reinforce the themes of guidance, responsibility, and the shaping influence of those who care, demonstrating that heroism and growth are cultivated through both example and support. Political and clan dynamics would be integrated into the narrative to enrich world-building and heighten tension. Historical rivalries, power struggles within the village council, and lingering trauma from previous conflicts would inform character choices and plot development, creating a living, breathing world that reacts to both internal and external pressures. Strategic discussions, council deliberations, and negotiations would highlight the complexities of leadership and governance, emphasizing that decisions carry weight and that personal ambition is always intertwined with collective responsibility. By situating the protagonists' journeys within this larger socio-political context, the film would underscore the interdependence between personal growth and societal stability. Cinematography, visual design, and set construction would be meticulously crafted to enhance immersion, emotional impact, and narrative clarity. Expansive natural landscapes, including forests, mountains, rivers, and village vistas, would establish scope and grandeur, while intimate framing and selective focus would capture subtle emotional cues, reactions, and interpersonal tension. Lighting would be employed to reflect mood, internal conflict, and narrative tone, using shadows, contrast, and color grading to underscore tension, reflection, or triumph. Costume, prop, and set design would combine functionality with symbolic visual storytelling, ensuring that every element contributes to both aesthetic cohesion and narrative clarity. Action sequences would utilize dynamic camera movements, tracking shots, and perspective shifts to maximize engagement while maintaining spatial coherence and character visibility. The musical score and sound design would be integral to narrative and emotional immersion. Traditional Japanese instruments would blend with orchestral scoring to reinforce thematic resonance, while character-specific motifs would enhance audience connection to narrative arcs. Sound effects would be designed to maintain realism in combat, environmental interaction, and chakra manifestations, while strategic use of silence or minimalistic auditory design would amplify tension, reflection, and emotional beats. Music and sound would be carefully synchronized with narrative pacing, reinforcing both spectacle and intimacy. Finally, the thematic core of the live-action adaptation would emphasize perseverance, empathy, identity, and moral responsibility. Naruto's journey would illustrate that true strength emerges from resilience, compassion, and the ability to protect and inspire others. Sasuke's struggles would exemplify the nuanced interplay between trauma, morality, and personal ambition, while Sakura's evolution would highlight the integration of intellect, courage, and emotional intelligence in forming a fully realized hero. The narrative would underscore the significance of mentorship, teamwork, and societal context, demonstrating that personal growth is inseparable from relationships, ethical choices, and communal responsibility. By harmonizing these elements, emotional depth, realistic combat, cultural authenticity, psychological complexity, mentorship, political nuance, and immersive cinematic design, the live-action adaptation would offer a rich, multidimensional experience that honors the spirit of the original Naruto series while standing as a compelling, independent cinematic work. Naruto, the movie, live action would continue to expand in scope and emotional resonance by delving into fully imagined combat sequences, festival events, and the detailed daily life of the Hidden Leaf Village, all of which serve to deepen character development and world building. One major mission could involve Team 7 being sent to investigate a series of mysterious disturbances in a nearby forested region, where rogue ninjas are manipulating environmental traps to ambush travelers. The forest itself would almost function as a character, with towering trees, dense foliage, and treacherous terrain creating suspense and visual spectacle. Naruto's ingenuity would shine as he uses shadow clones to navigate complex traps and mislead adversaries, while Sasuke calculates precise attack strategies, combining observational skill with elemental ninjutsu to disable threats efficiently. Sakura would provide critical support, using medical expertise to treat injured civilians and team members while also utilizing her strength to overcome physical obstacles. Each action sequence would not only highlight the characters' abilities but also reveal their evolving relationships, decision-making under pressure, and moral judgment, illustrating that every victory is earned through skill, collaboration, and ethical consideration. Parallel to these high-stakes missions, the film would immerse audiences in the village's cultural life, showcasing festivals, rituals, and communal gatherings that contrast with the intensity of combat. Scenes depicting the fire festival, for example, would combine vibrant lighting, traditional costumes, music, and choreography, emphasizing the richness of the Hidden Leaf Village's traditions. These moments would also serve as opportunities for character introspection and interpersonal development. Naruto's exuberance and desire to connect with others might lead to playful interactions with villagers, Sasuke's reserved nature would provide moments of quiet reflection, and Sakura's growing confidence could be expressed through her active participation in festival preparations. Such sequences would balance the narrative, providing emotional relief and cultural context while reinforcing themes of community, heritage, and personal growth. The psychological tension of the narrative would be further developed through Naruto's ongoing internal struggle with the nine-tailed fox. The live-action format would allow for cinematic representations of this conflict, using reflections, shadowy apparitions, and dreamlike sequences to externalize Naruto's fear, anger, and eventual acceptance. These moments would provide insight into the duality of power and vulnerability, illustrating how personal mastery and emotional regulation are intertwined. Sasuke's darker journey would be mirrored by internal sequences that examine the lingering effects of his clan's massacre, his obsession with vengeance, and his conflicted feelings toward Naruto. Sakura's arc would continue to emphasize growth through challenges, showing how courage, intelligence, and emotional resilience are honed through experience, teamwork, and reflection. By interweaving internal and external conflicts, the film would create a narrative rich in psychological depth, allowing audiences to empathize with the characters' struggles and triumphs on multiple levels. Mentorship would remain a central pillar of the story, with Kakashi and Iruka guiding Team 7 through practical and ethical lessons. Kakashi's strategic insight and calm demeanor would help the young ninjas navigate high-risk missions, teaching them the importance of observation, foresight, and ethical decision-making. Iruka's supportive presence would provide emotional stability and encouragement, highlighting the transformative power of belief and recognition. The interactions with mentors would be punctuated by subtle humor, philosophical discussions, and shared experiences, underscoring the value of intergenerational guidance and the continuity of knowledge, skill, and moral principle. These relationships would emphasize that the growth of a hero is inseparable from the guidance and wisdom imparted by those who care. The film would also explore the intricacies of village politics and clan dynamics, depicting the ongoing negotiations and power struggles that affect both individual characters and collective society. Scenes in council chambers would reveal debates over resource allocation, security measures, and the ethical use of power, illustrating how leadership decisions have far-reaching consequences. Interactions with clans such as the Uchiha and Hyuga would provide context for historical rivalries, generational expectations, and the social pressures that shape individual behavior. These political elements would be woven seamlessly into the narrative, influencing mission objectives, character decisions, and interpersonal tensions, thereby creating a world that feels complex, alive, and consequential. Cinematically, the live-action adaptation would employ dynamic camera work, lighting, and production design to immerse audiences in both the grandeur and intimacy of the ninja world. Expansive shots of natural landscapes would contrast with tightly framed, intimate character moments, creating a rhythm that balances spectacle with emotional depth. Lighting would be used strategically to reflect mood and narrative tone, from high-contrast shadows during tense confrontations to warm, diffused light in moments of community and reflection. Costume and set design would be carefully curated to blend authenticity with visual storytelling, with each character's attire reflecting their personality, role, and personal growth, and props crafted to enhance believability and immersion. Action sequences would employ tracking shots, slow motion, and perspective shifts to showcase both skill and strategy, ensuring clarity while heightening suspense. The musical score would reinforce narrative and emotional resonance, integrating traditional Japanese instruments with orchestral arrangements to create thematic cohesion. Character-specific leitmotifs would underscore emotional arcs, while ambient sounds and strategic silence would heighten tension, reflection, and dramatic impact. Chakra-based techniques, environmental interactions, and combat sequences would be accompanied by nuanced sound design, creating a layered auditory experience that complements visual storytelling. The interplay of music, sound effects, and dialogue would enhance immersion, drawing viewers into the intensity of action sequences and the subtlety of emotional moments alike. Thematically, the film would continue to emphasize perseverance, identity, loyalty, and the ethical use of power. Naruto's journey would exemplify the integration of personal strength with moral responsibility, demonstrating that true heroism requires empathy, courage, and resilience. Sasuke's arc would explore the complexities of trauma, vengeance, and reconciliation, while Sakura's growth would highlight the development of agency, intelligence, and emotional maturity. These intertwined narratives would convey that personal growth and societal contribution are mutually reinforcing, with mentorship, community, and teamwork serving as essential pillars of success. By blending emotional authenticity, cultural richness, narrative complexity, and cinematic spectacle, the adaptation would offer a fully immersive experience, honoring the spirit of the original Naruto universe while creating a compelling, independent cinematic work. Minor character arcs and subplots would be given equal attention, enriching the narrative's depth and emotional resonance. Shikamaru's strategic thinking and occasional cynicism would provide both tension and humor, demonstrating that intellect and insight are vital to mission success. Choji's loyalty, bravery, and strength would highlight the importance of perseverance and heart, even in situations where raw skill is insufficient. Ino's perceptiveness and communication abilities would underscore the value of observation, empathy, and coordination in both combat and social dynamics. These supporting narratives would be interwoven with the primary arcs of Team 7, ensuring that the village as a whole feels alive, vibrant, and interconnected, with each character contributing to the unfolding story and thematic exploration. Naruto, the movie, live action would further expand its narrative by plunging deeper into extended mission arcs, intricate character development, and the broader socio-political fabric of the Hidden Leaf Village. Following the early successes and minor setbacks of Team 7, the young ninjas would be assigned a more dangerous mission to investigate reports of rogue ninja activity in the borderlands. The terrain would be treacherous, with dense forests, jagged cliffs, and hidden traps, making navigation as critical as combat skill. Naruto's creativity and unconventional tactics would allow him to turn environmental hazards to his advantage, while Sasuke's analytical mind would meticulously plan each step of the infiltration. Sakura's medical knowledge and physical strength would become crucial in ensuring both the team's survival and the well-being of any encountered civilians. The mission would emphasize not just raw combat but careful planning, adaptability, and the capacity to make ethical decisions under pressure, reinforcing the central narrative themes of intelligence, morality, and teamwork. Within this mission, Team 7 would encounter a small cadre of rogue ninjas who have their own complex motivations. Flashbacks would reveal their grievances, from mistreated childhoods to disillusionment with village leadership, adding layers of psychological depth to the conflict. Rather than portraying them as one-dimensional villains, these adversaries would challenge the protagonists not just physically but morally, forcing Naruto and his teammates to navigate the fine line between justice, revenge, and empathy. The cinematography during these encounters would employ shadows, selective focus, and dynamic angles to heighten suspense while also reflecting the psychological tension of facing morally complex foes. The team would eventually overcome the adversaries through a combination of ingenuity, empathy, and strategic coordination, highlighting that true strength lies in the integration of skill, intellect, and moral clarity. Meanwhile, the narrative would further explore the personal dynamics of Team 7, illustrating the tension between rivalry and camaraderie. Naruto's brash optimism and willingness to take risks would clash with Sasuke's calculated, emotionally distant approach, creating moments of friction that also allow for subtle understanding and mutual respect to develop. Sakura would often mediate, providing both critical perspective and emotional support, emphasizing her growing role as both strategist and emotional anchor. These interactions would be layered with quiet moments, such as shared meals, reflective conversations under the moonlight, and playful exchanges, ensuring that the audience perceives the depth of these relationships beyond the surface of combat and missions. The depiction of the Hidden Leaf Village itself would continue to be rich and immersive, incorporating cultural details, architecture, and community life that reinforce the narrative's authenticity. Streets, marketplaces, and residential areas would be filled with villagers engaged in daily routines, highlighting both the vibrancy and vulnerability of the community. Festivals, such as a mid-mission lantern festival, would serve as narrative respite, offering both visual spectacle and opportunities for character introspection. During such events, Naruto's innate ability to inspire joy and camaraderie would contrast with Sasuke's introspective detachment and Sakura's growing confidence in social interactions. These sequences would not only enrich world-building but also illustrate the characters' evolving emotional intelligence, empathy, and interpersonal skills. Parallel to these events, Naruto's internal struggle with the nine-tailed fox would continue to evolve as a persistent narrative thread. Dreamlike sequences, reflections in water, and shadowed visions would externalize the tension between fear, rage, and eventual mastery, creating a psychological landscape that mirrors his external challenges. Sasuke's darker internal journey would similarly be represented visually, with flashbacks and subtle cues illustrating the lingering trauma of his clan's destruction and the obsessive drive for power and revenge. Sakura's internal arc would focus on self-acceptance, resilience, and the integration of intelligence with physical and emotional capability, showing that her growth is intertwined with both the team's collective experience and her personal journey. The mentors, Kakashi and Iruka, would continue to play crucial roles, providing guidance that balances tactical instruction with moral and emotional education. Kakashi's calm, analytical demeanor would teach strategy and foresight, while Iruka's personal investment in Naruto would underscore the importance of encouragement, recognition, and belief in potential. These relationships would be depicted through subtle interactions, demonstrating the ongoing impact of mentorship on character development, decision-making, and the formation of ethical frameworks. In subsequent missions, the team would face more complex adversaries, including factions seeking to destabilize the Hidden Leaf Village through political manipulation and environmental sabotage. These encounters would blend tactical planning, moral deliberation, and high-stakes combat. Naruto's ingenuity, Sasuke's precision, and Sakura's analytical and supportive abilities would be fully tested, emphasizing how diverse skills, perspectives, and emotional intelligence are crucial in overcoming multi-layered challenges. These sequences would combine dynamic action with cinematic techniques such as tracking shots, selective slow motion, and strategic lighting to enhance tension, clarity, and narrative impact. The political and societal dynamics of the village would be woven into these arcs, showing how decisions at higher levels ripple through the lives of individuals and communities. Council meetings, debates over resource allocation, and discussions of security strategy would contextualize the stakes of each mission. Clan rivalries and historical legacies would inform both antagonistic behavior and character motivations, reinforcing the notion that the ninja world is interconnected, and that personal growth must be understood within the broader social and ethical framework. This depth of political realism would strengthen narrative credibility while adding layers of tension and stakes to the story. Combat sequences would continue to emphasize strategic and emotional stakes over spectacle alone. The choreography would highlight teamwork, timing, and the use of environment, with chakra-based abilities integrated naturally into physical performance. Naruto's shadow clones would be employed in creative, strategic ways. Sasuke's elemental techniques would showcase both precision and calculated risk, and Sakura's medical and offensive capabilities would demonstrate the integration of intellect, strength, and empathy. These sequences would reveal character growth and reinforce narrative themes, ensuring that each battle carries both dramatic and emotional weight. Minor character arcs would be further developed to enrich the narrative tapestry. Shikamaru's strategic foresight, Choji's loyalty and courage, and Ino's perceptiveness and adaptability would be highlighted in mission sequences and interpersonal interactions, showing that heroism is distributed across diverse personalities. These arcs would also demonstrate the importance of mentorship, collaboration, and individual initiative within a functioning society, reinforcing the story's thematic pillars. Emotional tension would be heightened during climactic missions that force Team 7 to make morally and strategically challenging decisions. Naruto might face the choice between saving a comrade or completing a mission. Sasuke could wrestle with his desire for vengeance against the need for ethical restraint, and Sakura would be required to mediate and apply both her intelligence and moral judgment. These high-stakes dilemmas would deepen character development while emphasizing the thematic core of responsibility, empathy, and moral clarity. Parallel to mission arcs, the film would continue to explore cultural and societal depth through festivals, communal rituals, and personal milestones. Scenes depicting clan ceremonies, ancestral observances, and village celebrations would offer visual and emotional texture, contrasting with the intensity of combat. These sequences would provide opportunities for character reflection, interpersonal bonding, and subtle development, reinforcing the themes of community, heritage, and personal growth. The ongoing tension between internal and external conflict would remain central. Naruto's mastery over the nine-tailed fox, Sasuke's reconciliation with his desire for vengeance, and Sakura's attainment of full agency would culminate in sequences where internal clarity directly influences success in the external world. Cinematic techniques such as visual metaphors, symbolic imagery, and parallel montage would communicate the intertwined nature of these conflicts, ensuring that narrative and visual storytelling are tightly integrated. Village politics and strategic considerations would continue to shape the narrative. Interactions with village leadership, council deliberations, and rival clans would inform both mission objectives and personal decision-making. The nuanced presentation of these elements would provide depth to the world building and situate individual struggles within a complex social and ethical landscape, highlighting the interplay between personal ambition, communal responsibility, and moral action. The depiction of environmental hazards and natural landscapes would be fully integrated into mission sequences. Forest ambushes, mountain traversal, and urban infiltration would not only provide visual variety but also function narratively to test the character's adaptability, ingenuity, and teamwork. Dynamic cinematography, realistic set design, and practical effects would immerse the audience in these challenges, ensuring that each environment contributes meaningfully to character development and plot progression. Psychological depth would continue to be explored through reflective sequences, dreamlike interludes, and intimate character moments. These moments would reveal the protagonist's fears, aspirations, and ethical dilemmas, enriching audience understanding of the internal stakes that accompany external challenges. The interplay of introspection and action would create a layered narrative structure that balances spectacle with emotional resonance. Mentorship sequences would continue to demonstrate the transmission of knowledge, skill, and ethical reasoning. Kakashi's guidance in tactical planning and combat strategy would be complemented by Iruka's personal mentorship, emphasizing the multifaceted nature of guidance and the importance of both emotional and practical support. These interactions would be critical in shaping Team 7's decision-making and moral framework. Music and sound design would reinforce narrative and emotional beats, blending traditional instruments, orchestral arrangements, and character-specific leitmotifs. Action sequences, environmental interactions, and moments of reflection would be supported by layered auditory textures, heightening engagement and immersion. Strategic use of silence and minimalistic soundscapes would emphasize tension, emotional gravity, and dramatic payoff. Climactic battles would integrate strategic, emotional, and ethical stakes. The final sequences of major missions would require Team 7 to combine all elements of skill, ingenuity, and moral reasoning. Naruto's innovative use of shadow clones, Sasuke's precise execution of elemental attacks, and Sakura's synthesis of intelligence, strength, and empathy would coalesce in battles that are visually thrilling, emotionally satisfying, and narratively meaningful. The resolution of these arcs would emphasize the growth of both individual characters and the team as a whole. Naruto's acceptance of his inner power and recognition of responsibility, Sasuke's evolving understanding of vengeance and morality, and Sakura's attainment of confidence and agency would signal narrative closure while leaving threads open for future exploration. Themes of perseverance, ethical action, and interdependence would be reinforced, underscoring the story's philosophical depth. Minor characters would continue to contribute to the richness of the narrative tapestry. Subplots involving Shikamaru, Choji, and Ino would intersect with Team 7's missions, reinforcing themes of loyalty, strategy, and collaboration. These arcs would enhance both the realism and the emotional texture of the world, demonstrating that every individual's choices impact the collective narrative. Finally, the broader village context, its culture, politics, and social dynamics, would frame the protagonist's journey, emphasizing that personal growth, moral clarity, and heroism exist within a living, interconnected world. Through these cumulative sequences, the live-action adaptation would achieve a balance of spectacle, character depth, ethical reflection, and immersive world-building, offering a cinematic experience that honors the essence of the Naruto universe while delivering a standalone, emotionally resonant, and visually compelling story.